In terms of the Oakland A's, the fan base in Oakland, and a possible relocation to Las Vegas, we had to call in an expert. And that's David Samson, who's the former president of the Marlins. David, I don't know if I can say you wrote the playbook on how to properly execute this, which is getting a stadium built, partially using public funds, and using the threat of relocation to get that stadium built. I mean, if you didn't write the playbook, you refined it. So as you're watching what's going on in Oakland, you're thinking what?
I'm having a little PTSD. That's the first thing. The second thing is I'm just noticing that it seems as though the A's did not pay attention to the same playbook that I used. It seems as though they've made every PR mistake possible. They've been trying to get a stadium for over a decade through an owner, Lou Wolf, with Bud Selig, now with John Fisher and Rob Manfred. And the problem they have is they don't have a deal yet in Vegas. Even though they have some public financing, they don't have a deal, which is why there was no vote to relocate.
And how big of a deal is it that they have no deal? Is that just the next logical step in the process, or are we very far away from a deal?
Well, let me just tell you what needs to happen before the owners can even vote. You need to figure out what your budget is for stadium construction. And showing a rendering on a parcel of land that's too small for a regular retractable roof building, even with only 30,000 seats, is not a very good start. It's almost like they went to Chat GPT and said, bring me a drawing of a stadium on this site. But that's not going to get you 23 votes. So you need a real stadium budget, then a plan of construction, then a plan of where you're going to play during construction. Then you need all the financials done for when you do move. What's your corporate sponsorship level going to be? Your season ticket holder base in Vegas? What's your TV deal going to be? All of that has to be done and then looked at by owners so they can decide whether it's better to have the team in Oakland or Vegas. And that's based on how much revenue sharing they pay to Oakland and what they would have to pay in Vegas.
But it seems like there's so much damage being done in Oakland. Would it be hard to repair that relationship with the team and the public if this went south with Vegas?
I mean, I'm the king of inflicting damage, right? So no. The fact is that there is a lot of damage. There's always damage when a ballpark is being done. Let's look at a great example where I was born, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You may not remember when that building was being built, when they were trying to figure out the financing, where they did the tax for all those counties around Milwaukee. It was a disaster. The amount of damage that was created was epic. And guess what? They're a huge success story. Anytime you get a new building built, there is damage. And the minute it's built, the damage is over. And then you get to go ahead and run your team. And what Oakland does better than I ever did is they know how to run a team. They know how to run a winning team. Forget the fact they're the worst team in baseball right now with the lowest payroll. Their front office is good, and they will have a winning team in their new ballpark. That's why it's not a big issue what's happening this year on the field.
The very self-deprecating David Samson is joining us. He's the host of Nothing Personal, and he executed the same thing that the A's are trying to do now. Well, a little bit different. You actually wanted to stay in Florida, got a stadium built with public funding. Maybe wasn't that popular at the time, but got it done. Used the threat of relocation to do it. The A's actually seem like they really want to move. They really want to go to Vegas. Now, I want to play a clip for you, David, from Rob Manfred from yesterday. And he was talking about Oakland and how they didn't push hard enough to keep the A's. Let's listen.
The real question is, what is it that Oakland was prepared to do? There is no Oakland offer, okay? I mean, they never got to the point where they had a plan to build a stadium at any site. You don't build a stadium based on the club activity alone. The community has to provide support. And, you know, at some point you come to the realization it's just not going to happen.
Is that true? Because there's been some pushback on what Rob Manfred said there, that Oakland wasn't providing any kind of plan.
So just so you know, realization was my word of the day on Nothing Personal today. And here's the problem. It's not up to the community to come up with the plan. It's up to the team. The team comes up with the plan, part of which is using public money, part of which is using private money. The team does all the projections. The team has to lead the way here. It is not incumbent on the community to ever do that. And the problem is for the commissioner, who I support and I helped get into office, and he's terrific. He's done so much good for the game. PR, not as much. And the problem is, don't make statements that back you into a corner. And when you say something like there was never an offer, of course that's not true. There's been back and forth between Oakland and Oakland A's ownership for a decade, back and forth conversations. And the Howard Terminal deal was actually pretty close. The actual deal there is a deal that can still be done. And if you ask Rob Manfred, like people did in 2015, go back and look, 16, 17, 18, he said the same thing. It's better for baseball if the A's stay in Oakland. And he still feels that. And the owners still feel that. They want Vegas to be an expansion candidate where the owners can collect an expansion fee. They don't want to waste a potentially viable market on a relocation.
On the topic of expansion, by the way, you're saying Vegas would be a good one. Would they add one or two teams? And is that something that might be happening soon?
Oh, it's a guarantee. 2 teams are going to be added to Major League Baseball. We were talking about that in committee meetings 10 years ago, getting to 32 teams, 16 in each league. Intra-league is not what it used to be. There was even talk of getting rid of divisions, total realignment. All sorts of interesting things can happen. But first, Tampa needs to get a ballpark, and Oakland needs to get a ballpark. You can't do expansion before that. And once that happens, then you're going to see expansion.
Wait, but David, if you're saying that it makes way more sense for Vegas to be an expansion team rather than a relocation team, why don't the other owners just vote this down?
So it's not quite as easy as that, only in that Oakland needs a place to play. And so the Marlins, as an example, we were playing in Dolphin Stadium. And the owner of the Dolphins, Stephen Ross, told us and Major League Baseball, we will not allow you to play here. And one of the rules of having a franchise in baseball is you have to have a place to play, or they can actually take away your franchise. So the Oakland A's owners say to baseball, we can't be in the Coliseum anymore. The lease is over, and it's not a major league facility. Therefore, we need somewhere. So in that case, going to Vegas is a possibility, but I still believe it's really leverage to get the deal done in Oakland. But the financing that passed in Nevada, critical, because if that had failed, that would have hurt their chances of getting an expansion team and would have had one fewer city available to fight over expansion. That's why MLB wanted this financing to pass. But the bill that passed, the money that's available, that can be used for any franchise, not necessarily for the A's.
Wait, so you think that ultimately when this is said and done, all those A's fans that are out there holding signs, doing the reverse boycott, all of the turmoil they're being put through right now, they're eventually going to get their stadium, and this is all leverage for an expansion team in Las Vegas? I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right.
No, you're hearing me right. I'm saying that would be a play out of my playbook to get to that point. And I still believe that can happen.
Okay.
But in order for it to happen, there has to be no more rhetoric, no more PR, no more get in front of a microphone and saying what Rob is saying or what the mayor is saying. Someone's got to pick up the phone and make the first move in order to see if they can get a deal together in Oakland. And I still believe that that's what the owners would prefer. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It means that's what they'd prefer.
David, what if someone said they were, getting 2,000-3,000 people at a game? There's not really a public will for a team in Oakland. What would you say to someone who brought up that criticism?
Wholly irrelevant. If you take a look at where season tickets were at Three Rivers Stadium before Pittsburgh went to PNC Park, have you ever been to Candlestick, where the Giants played before the Giants opened their ballpark? And that is a success story beyond success stories. So that's really not entirely relevant, nor is it the fact that they had 27,000 people for a boycott and then 7,000 people the next day. Baseball doesn't look at that. The owners don't look at that. You can't expect people to buy season tickets when the facility is just so subpar. And that's really the pitch that the owners are making to the community and to the other owners. The owners of the A's are saying, hey, we will not take as much revenue sharing dollars because we will be a more successful team because we know what we're doing on the baseball side. If we have a new building, then we will have the revenue that will enable us to have a better payroll and stand on our own 2 feet.
David Samson is joining us. He's the former president of the Marlins. His podcast is Nothing Personal with David Samson. Last one for you, David. Do you mind if I switch gears just for a second here? Because I feel like there's a parallel thing with Nikola Jokic right now in the Denver Nuggets and sort of being this reluctant superstar, and obviously Mike Trout from your sport, who never wanted to be the face of baseball, and I believe said that maybe to Bud Selig at one point, didn't want to be the face of baseball. Is that damaging to this? Is there a responsibility for a two-time MVP and finals MVP to sell the game?
Would it shock you to know how many professional athletes don't like their job?
Probably.
I'm just asking because it's a job, and it's a hard job. How many people, when you go out for drinks on a Friday night, are complaining, or they're saying, thank God it's Friday. They're not happy they have to go to work the next day. They don't feel like working. They're looking for a sick day or an off day. All Jokic did was give you a truth bomb, which is, I just want to be home, which is what we all say when we're working. Even those of us who love work, it's still better to be home with our families. So that's all Jokic was saying. And it's not his job to sell the game. He does it on the court, and I love the honesty. And the problem with baseball players, Mike Trout is a great example. It's really hard to play a baseball season. I've been inside that clubhouse for 18 years. It's exhausting every single day playing a game. When you don't have an off day, you don't want to shoot a commercial. You don't want to make an appearance. You don't want to go on radio shows. You just want to be home. And so all Jokic said is, just get me home. And I think that's absolutely fine.
Wow. You know, but the average person isn't hitting game-winning threes in the NBA. I always wonder about golfers, too, because when we all get a break and go on vacation, the first thing we want to do is play golf. So what does a golfer do on vacation?
Yes.
They watch movies. They play video games, right? It's the same thing. When you're home, I'll tell you, me, at the end of a week, this is my last show of the week, I don't feel like talking to anybody. I've been talking all week for hours a day. The first thing I'm going to do when I'm done with you is I'm going to zip it and go watch a movie. Golfers don't play 36 on their off day. That's their job.
What are you going to watch?
I'm going to watch a documentary, the new Obama documentary called Working, and Dear God, It's Me, Margaret. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
Perloff saw it with his daughter in theaters.
2 thumbs up. It's great.
David Samson, you did not mail in any part of this interview, or at least it didn't seem like you did, even though it was your last one on a Friday. Thanks so much for explaining and making us smarter about this Oakland A's situation. David Samson is the host of Nothing Personal with David Samson. Thank you.
Have a great day.